Moving to a big city as a practicing dentist was one of the worst decisions of my entire life. If you're anything like me, practicing dentistry or currently in dental school, you may have aspirations of chasing your dreams of being a big city dentist, or at least living the lifestyle in a poppin' city where you have things to do and fun places to be, people to meet that are like-minded and successful like yourself. And based on my experiences practicing in Miami, that can't be further from the truth. Like, this isn't a story of fairy tales and full mouth reconstructions. No. If you want to see all that stuff, go on Instagram for sure. You'll find a ton of docs portraying this crazy fun lifestyle. Actually, really sad, and behind the scenes, I struggled so much. I was jobless. I was making very little money. All these unforeseen obstacles were just hitting me one after another, things that I never expected. Today in this video, I want to explain the struggles of becoming a dentist and working in these big cities where the competition is fierce, the salary is really low, and you're also just unprepared to handle this kind of stuff as a new grad especially. So if you want to move to a big city like LA, New York, Miami, Chicago, Atlanta, any of the major cities in the Midwest, you should definitely stay till the end of the video because we have a lot to unpack, and there may be some things that you learned today that nobody's really talking about. As a quick recap, I started my first year in private practice working for Aspen Dental, a DSO corporation, where I was making a ton of money. I was doing really well. I did over $300,000 in salary. I was learning complex extractions, removable pros, the denture stuff that they do a lot, learning new patient exams. They were flying me out for training, for implants. It was a great opportunity, don't get me wrong. And there's a ton of opportunity in these more remote locations, which is something I definitely advise anybody to really get into. I wanted to be there for 1 year, almost like a paid residency. And I think that's a fair thing to do because my friends who went to residency had terrible experiences and didn't really learn much. And after 1 year, both of us were in completely different playing fields. So within that year, I was already looking for the next step. Miami actually was right across the state, so it was a perfect segue to get into another major city. However, there were a ton of red flags that were thrown my way when I decided to make the move. One being a lot of dentists I asked who were working here or who left the city. Most of them were saying it was cutthroat, you won't find a job, there are multiple part-time positions, owners are really finicky, it's a lot of shady business practices, the dentistry is very dirty, there's a lot of competition from foreign, unlicensed dentists. I just took it in as like, oh, I'm different. I feel we're really prepared after working at Aspen. I worked in a busy practice, I can handle anything. However, I quickly realized that even if you're a skilled doctor, the opportunities in these major cities may not be readily available to you because of the other factors outside of your control. So 10 months into working for Aspen, I felt like I was beginning to plateau. I wasn't really learning any new skills or techniques. The works just started to become repetitive and I was looking for my next step and to get out of that penitentiary dungeon-like area of Fort Myers where I felt so out of place. I'm a city boy at heart, grew up in New Jersey, went to NYU, lived in Manhattan, now I live in Miami. So just being put there for 1 year was a really awkward experience. Seeing how people lived was just something I wasn't comfortable with, and I knew I couldn't be there for long. There was simply nothing to do for me on the weekends. There was no like-minded people like me. I found a contract 11 months in. It was in a great practice in North Miami. Dude was 25 years out, diplomat of implantology, 17 staff members, office has been there for 20 plus years. The contract actually was really lucrative. It was offering me 40% of collections, with the standard in dentistry being 30 or so. And then the fees in North Miami in this office were insanely high. Talking $2,200 for a crown, $450 for an MOD filling. I was super shocked and happy that I found these people. Actually, the wife of the practice owner found me through Instagram. I was sending my resume out to many people in Miami, trying to find something that catches. She found me, she saw it. She was like in love with the idea of having me work with them. However, big caveat, no daily guarantee. There was actually 3 doctors already working there. I would be the 4th doctor, and having no daily guarantee, I was like, the fees are crazy high. I can work for a few days. It was only part-time. I was like, yeah, no problem. I mean, I'm gonna figure it out. I just need a few crowns a week to really survive. It would be super easy. Pack up my bags out of Fort Myers and head over to Miami to start this new job in this private practice. And quitting was like a big thing for me because I made a lot of connections in Fort Myers, a lot of work relationships, people in the community, friends that I made along along the way. And it was very hard for me to say goodbye, but I quickly realized that, especially in a corporate office, these relationships are very temporary. People don't care that you're leaving as much as you think. It was really hard for me to say goodbye, to put in your couple weeks notice and just peace out. So there, I did find my best friend to this day, Sasha. He was in Fort Myers. We met at my apartment building. We decided to move to Miami together. He's actually applying for dental school this year, which is kind of cool. He's taking his DAT right now, and I'm offering as much mentorship and guidance as I can to get him to where we all are now. Anyways, I signed the contract. I went to Miami. There was a couple things in the contract also. I was a 1099. Every job in Miami was a 1099 independent contractor job, which means you gotta have your own insurance, you're paying your own taxes, you have to do your taxes and structure them in a different way, where as a W-2, it's just constantly being taken out. And the no daily guarantee was a major red flag, but I overlooked it. Now, I'm advising everybody watching this video for sure, no matter what job you take, get the daily guarantee. This was the biggest stress I had to deal with, was that I was making $0 for a large portion of this job because of the daily guarantee, even though the fees were really high. And actually these DSOs really shine in these places for the guaranteed salary. Aspen, Heartland, Dental Dreams, they'll all give you a daily because these offices have room for new doctors to come in. The turnover is high and there's enough work to go around, which means that you will exceed that daily most likely, so everybody wins. As a private practice owner, you want your associates to do more than just a daily. Offices like DSOs are willing to do that, which is where I see the trend going into more DSOs and more associates going towards DSO practicing. Can't help it. And honestly, it's not even that bad of a gig because I wasn't even producing the amount of dentistry for $300,000 salary. But because the office was set up in a way where I would profit share off the hygiene, which was top in the country, OS, endo, all these different factors that came into play, I was able to make a lot more than just actually what I was able to produce as a clinical dentist. Like, if you were to take 30% of production or collection and try to make $300,000 off of that as a new grad, that is insanely hard. And you're just not ready for it. You just don't have the speed. You're not able to do more complex cases, which generate more revenue per procedure. And I had a tough time working there for a lot of other factors that we'll talk about now. One, I was having a tough time with case acceptance. I went from corporate to private practice. There's a very different setting, very different demographic. Aspen had patients who were ready to get treatment done because they were in desperate need. In private practice, you become more of a salesperson in the sense that in a big city, they're also very hesitant to spend the money. There's a lot of competition. They really can feel you out more. They'll ask you more questions. The dental IQ of my patients was also much higher in this private practice. In rich areas, people take better care of their teeth. They're more knowledgeable about their dental health. Anyways, there was 4 doctors there. I was the 4th one. So I would only get about 2 to 3 new patients a day, but as long as I capitalized on a few of them, I would have been golden. Spanish in Miami is essential. I realized how bad my Spanish was when I moved here. Now, I was studying for 6 to 7 months before I moved to Miami because I knew that would be a big factor. But having fluent conversations in Spanish with patients who can really sense your knowledge of dentistry and your ability to communicate effectively was a big barrier. And with no daily and no case acceptance, I was walking home with nothing for days and weeks at a time. If you're ever considering moving to a heavily predominant Hispanic population like Miami or Los Angeles, maybe areas in Texas, definitely focus on learning Spanish and getting good at communication with them. I was practicing with my coworkers every day. I would have a tutor. I would focus on these workbooks designed for like 7th graders, 10th graders, writing in Spanish, listening to music, Bad Bunny and all this stuff. But first of all, Bad Bunny actually is a really bad Spanish tutor. So don't listen to Bad Bunny because that's like, Spanish is super broken and it's very difficult to understand. But these are one of those skills that I didn't anticipate really being that much of a factor. I thought if I can prep a crown well, I'd be fine. I'd get case acceptance, I'd make a lot of money. Not the situation. Especially because in Fort Myers, I was actually really good at case acceptance. I would explain treatment, I would establish value, I would create a sense of urgency around the treatment plans. Yet when I moved to a big city, I just lost my mojo. It felt that like I couldn't connect with anybody. People were just really hesitant to trust me as a doctor. I also looked fairly young and I was dressing in scrubs, so that became a problem. It's just like, you want to look older too, because ask yourself, do you want a dentist who has 15 years of experience or a year of experience. And you can quickly tell that I didn't have that much experience by the way I was talking, the lack of confidence in my treatment plans and stuff like that. That stuff I think takes a lot of time. When you see your treatments develop over time, you see cases that are successful, then when you present that to more patients, you are more confident in how you present it. So that was something I definitely am still growing on and learning over time. I told my boss, hey, can you help me get more patients, or I'm struggling to get case acceptance, what should I do? They said, okay, we'll run a special for a cleaning where you get a cleaning, x-rays, and exam for $69. So more patients started coming in. Now, the next problem was patients are coming in for a $69 cleaning, but the crown fee is $2,200. Imagine you coming in for 70 bucks just to get a cleaning. You have a couple broken teeth, and now your treatment plan's $5,000. You're like, whoa, 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 that's like absurd. And I understand that. So that became the next barrier, is that we did a promotion where we were attracting the wrong types of patients. Once again, out of my control to a certain extent. Patients were coming in for a cleaning. I was trying to sell them on more dentistry. It wasn't working. Then you realize really quickly your inexperience as a new grad dentist. All the complex full mouth reconstruction cases would obviously go to the owner dentist. These are big $50,000, $70,000 treatment plans. Makes sense. Why would an owner dentist ever let somebody like me 1 year out of school even attempt to treatment plan or even attempt to speak a single word to a patient who's potentially gonna drop $50,000? His name is on the practice. He's been there for 20 years. I understand that. And there were situations where I would diagnose single tooth dentistry, crown here, filling here, root canal, bridge. He would sit me down and be like, wait a minute, dog, this is full mouth reconstruction. You need to increase the vertical. You need to crown every tooth. All these loose teeth in the front need to be splinted on a 10-unit bridge. And it's more complicated than just doing fillings and crowns on random teeth. And you would never know this as a new grad dentist. You just don't have the foresight to see these kinds of treatment plans develop and what works and doesn't work. Then he began to lose trust in me, which I understand. I just didn't know any better. All of this stress was really weighing down on my mental health. I began to feel depressed and anxious. I thought I'd come to Miami and live a really cool, fun lifestyle, but I wasn't making any money. The cost of living here is insanely high. I was burning through all my Aspen money and I was really down bad. So it got to a point where I had to look for another job opportunity. And the family that brought me in was like a mother, father figures to me. Like, they were super welcoming and they were trying to give me patience. And I was in a supportive environment, but it just didn't work. These are one of those external circumstances that just happen to you. And as a new grad dentist, I'm sure many people go through similar circumstances where they just don't have the control of the situation to make it better. And to this day, we still keep in communication. They still invited me to the Christmas party, even I really wasn't working for them that much anymore. That didn't work out. And that was my only move to Miami at the time. And that's the reason I quit my job. So you can imagine how vulnerable and helpless I felt at that time. So I was looking for a new job and I found one in Fort Lauderdale, which was about 45 minutes to an hour from my home in Midtown Miami. And then I realized that when you move to a big city, you have to start commuting further. And when I lived in Fort Myers and worked for Aspen, I lived across the street. Like, I could have ran to my practice. I would get out of bed at like 7:50 and just like, I could just get in my car, 8 o'clock, I'm ready, got a coffee, I'm ready to go for the first patient for extraction. No problem. In a big city, you realize the opportunities aren't exactly in the center of the city where you may want to live. Like, I live in Midtown, Wynwood area. You're not gonna be a new grad dentist working in Wynwood. That is just impossible, pretty much. I was driving an hour each way, which became another struggle for a new grad dentist in a big city. How much of your time and day is just like sucked out of you? But this practice was offering me a daily guarantee of $600. I was pushing for $1,000. We both landed at $700. Now, $700 isn't a lot for a dentist because the amount of loans, the expenses that you may be going through, trying to support a family, or just honestly just living your life that you've been waiting 10 years or so to live, it's understandable that you're gonna have a high cost of living. I was so grateful for the opportunity because I was making nothing and I was super willing to drive an hour each way. I was super willing to work in this practice, and it was a Medicaid office, which means that the type of dentistry wasn't the type I wanted to do. And it was good. It was good money to survive and like pay my rent and have like a little bit of weekend money where I just blow some on some fun stuff here and there. But I wasn't saving much, but it was allowing me to live in Miami like on the bare bones of it all. But then the next problem that I anticipate many new doctors or new grads moving to big cities will face is that they won't be happy with the type of dentistry they will be doing. I'm a firm believer in the doctors you surround yourself with in your beginning years will define the rest of your career. The dentistry you do in the beginning first couple years will be the dentistry that you will eventually take over for the rest of your career. People who get stuck into these corporate models are doing extractions and dentures for the rest of their lives because they can't turn down the money. I've seen this with my friends. So I was doing Medicaid dentistry. I was just ripping teeth out that had cavities that could be fixed. Patients didn't want to pay for crowns. It was all removable work, nothing fixed, no implant dentistry, no cosmetics, very low dental IQ. I was okay doing the work for the money, but it's not something that I could have seen myself doing long term. I saw a whole different aspect of dentistry I've never been exposed to before. For one, the dental IQ was really low. Patients didn't understand the value of their teeth or even trying to save them. And this is actually a super common belief in India, where I'm from, where my parents are from, is that like dentistry is considered secondary medicine. People don't believe in taking care of their teeth until it's too late. And even in India, dentists are seen as like snake oil salesmen or just like gypsies type of thing, where it's like they don't believe in that shit. They just believe in people just trying to take your money. And I started to see a lot of this in the population that I was working in. The office was also fairly brand new. The owner of the practice wasn't even a dentist. He was an MD who ran the medical clinic and expanded a dentist office, but he had no idea about basic concepts of dentistry, of insurance, how the procedures were working. So there was a massive disconnect there. Then because it was new, there wasn't many patients coming in. And the staff was also brand new. Like my assistant was fresh out of school. Like homie didn't know how to take a bite wing. I was teaching him how to take a bite wing, and it got to a point where I was like, dude, I can't do it. Like, this is not me. There will be somebody who can gladly step in and spend the time, devote the energy into growing this business from the ground up, teaching your assistants how to suction and all that stuff. But ain't me, man. So I was looking for another opportunity pretty quickly. This was right about the 6-month mark since I moved to Miami. It was a ton of ups and downs already. I wasn't making money. I landed this job and I was like, all right, it's gonna hold me afloat. Was looking for another job. So that was 3 jobs in my first 2 years. I was looking for a 4th job. So I landed on Implant Center of Miami. This is an awesome practice by an awesome owner, Dr. Herzog. She saw my portfolio. Like everybody sees this portfolio and they get super excited and they want to bring me in to talk about a potential job opportunity. To this day, I'm still very close with her and I have a great relationship with her. When she brought me on, there was a promise of teaching me implantology. This practice is fee-for-service $1,800 implants. So you gotta imagine patients are really just coming in, they know the cost of what they're gonna expect, they know that they need an implant. It's a very straightforward sell and it's just a ton of implant surgeries all day. However, there wasn't a full-time job offer for me. She saw my resume. A lot of owners are quick to hire on potential without really considering if the practice has enough space or demand for another doctor. Once again, no daily guarantee, but the promise of being an implantologist learning by a diplomat of implantology is almost priceless. She promised me that I get to shadow her every day, I get to walk with her to all her offices and learn implants, ask questions, assist, and she's top dog, no doubt about it. She was doing Caldwell Luke sinus lifts, vertical lifts, all on 4s, bone grafting, all these crazy procedures that she was actually showing me how to do, which was priceless, and I really liked the opportunity. But I wasn't making any money. She would put me in part-time, 1 to 2 days here in a slow office with opportunity to sell treatment, get some acceptance, and see where that went. However, once again, I was having a tough time with case acceptance and eventually passed all her implant surgeries on to me as I was deemed the prodigy at the time, where instead of her doing any work, all her patients would be seen by me. But then the problem became, if you're going to a practice with the woman's name on the front of the website, you know, she built this whole thing, it's a surgery, would you want a fresh grad, young looking kid like me to do these surgeries on you when she's literally there? She's telling you that, hey, like this guy's gonna do your surgery. It became very hard for her to pass off patients to me. And once again, I wasn't producing any money for her. The cycle continued. After telling her that my Medicaid office was giving me a $700 daily and I can't keep shadowing her for no money, she gave in and said, okay, I'll give you a daily, no problem. I was getting a daily, but I still wasn't getting acceptances. So once again, jobless, no opportunity, not making money. Living in a big city as a dentist is extremely stressful. And I hope you understand what you're getting into if you have the dreams or aspirations to do so. Now, I am doing well today. I found a great job. Definitely comes with its own negatives, but I found a way to make it work. This video is not to persuade you away from chasing your dreams. It's just to be aware of what you may face if you try to do a jump like this. I have full confidence that anybody can do it, but it does take a lot of ups and downs. And before I found this dream opportunity that I'm currently in, I actually was contemplating leaving Miami, moving away, going back rural, finding another corporate job. I even asked for my corporate job at Aspen back again. That's how bad these things got for me. And I'm sure my story isn't unique to me. I'm anticipating this being a common trend amongst new grad dentists looking to work in big cities, where you're gonna be bouncing around from job to job. Your bosses are giving you shit. They're not paying you enough. You're not doing the dentistry that you wanna do. And you get fed up and you start to find that it becomes a really stressful moment in your career. You're a doctor. You shouldn't be having to go through these kinds of problems. You should be making a ton of money, having a ton of free time, and living the life that you want. But this wasn't my story at the time. And I began to applying for every single job in South Florida just to have the ability to live here still. My lease re-sign was coming up. I was getting frustrated by not making any money, and I was contemplating. Then the jobs that I applied to that would bring me in for interviews quickly realized I just wasn't experienced enough to work in these practices. I would get opportunities to work in these private practices, fee for service, 15 years in the community, great. One time I went and the dude asked me to do a crown prep on a typodont. Looked at the prep and was like, yeah, I'll call you back. Never called me back, ghosted me. And I guess my crown sucked. I'm sorry. At the time, sure. This guy was like 20 years out. For their expectations to be extremely high, I understand that because they're putting their trust in the doctor that's going to be treating their patients with their name on the door. I didn't realize how inexperienced I was until I constantly kept getting rejection from these job interviews non-stop. I began to ask some of these docs that were interviewing for job positions, what are they looking for in a doctor? And a lot of the time, the competition that I was facing were doctors 12 years out, 15 years out, doctors who've had so much experience from around the world, specialists who are just applying for general dentist spots. I realized that I was in a pond full of sharks as a guppy in a major city. You're gonna start to see the competition that you're surrounding yourself with, top of the top from the world. People's end goal is to end up here. It's not somebody's first step out of school where they make a ton of mistakes and they learn dentistry. No. People come here having mastered their craft and looking to retire and start their families in these extravagant locations. So at this point, I was going to go to South Carolina to work for affordable dentures and implants. I know of a guy who did this route and who does a lot of fancy implant surgeries, all on fours and zygomas, and this is the route that he took because the company to train their doctors to become all on four experts, which is exactly what I wanted to be. At the same time, I saw a job listing on Indeed for a salary potentially between $300,000 to $700,000. So I looked at it and I was like, this doesn't really make that much sense. I'm gonna just apply and see what happens. But my friend Sunny, who actually inspired me to make the YouTube channel, take your resume, print it out, and show up to the office, give them the resume and see what happens. And I did that. And actually, it worked. It worked. And that's the job I currently have now. I definitely make way more than I expected to make in Miami, and I'm doing really well financially, but it is 6 days a week, 12-hour shifts, where I do get a few days off in between. It's a crazy, crazy clinic for sure. with a lot of full arch implants, a lot of crowns, a lot of veneer cases, people flying from around the country to come get their work done here. But nonetheless, it's invaluable experience. I'm becoming faster than I'd ever expected. I've placed hundreds of implants in the past few months. So it was an opportunity of a lifetime and I took it. It allowed me to stay in Miami. Also, the office does a lot of bracket and wire braces, which opened the avenue to allow me to start placing these braces on kids, start learning. I have mentorship from my owner doctor who wants me to learn these things and open clinics around Florida with all this skill set so he can grow his business. And I've currently been working for about 4 months now at this clinic. I love this job. It's a great opportunity, but I made this video to show you that there is a lot of ups and downs if you ever attempt to move to a big city. I'm not sure if most grads who try to move to a big city are facing as much of the downs as I did, but I'm curious to know that if you're considering, what city are you looking to move to? What have you heard about the city? Do you have a stable job lined up? Is my experience just really shitty? Or do a lot of other dentists face similar struggles? Leave some comments down below. Let me know what y'all are thinking about all this, and I'll see y'all on the next one.